Nevertheless, Relationship Wednesdays is the focal point this evening. If you've just joined us, thank you so much for choosing us over the rest. Time for our very first conversations. I told you 53 years, that was the hook. Okay, when you hear that two people have been together for 53 years plus, you start to ask yourself, listen, what are you doing? You know, how are you interacting? What is going on, especially in the current dating economy? Besides the point, it is time for us to get into this particular conversation, and we will tackle that in just a short bit. Now, they've been married for over 5 decades, and instead of keeping their love story to themselves, they've traveled the world helping other couples rebuild theirs. This is Peter and Maire van der Linde, who are part of Retrouvaille, that is a Retrouvaille Life Line for married couples, a global program that helps relationships move from crisis to connection. I don't know about you, but if somebody said to me, Shayla, listen, you and your future special somebody could move from a place and a space of fighting, of arguing, of not seeing eye to eye, to this place of connection, of reconnection, of establishing how we can continue to reconnect, I would definitely hit up the van der Linde married couple to just find out what it is they're getting up to. And so what we did is we hit them up. And so they join us on the line this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, hello. Welcome to African Diaries.
Thank you very much for having us.
Hi, Shayla. Yep, no, we're very happy to try and give some of our experience and, you know, what we do and what we don't do to other couples. We've been there and we've done that, but we're still building our marriage. So, yeah.
And it takes hard work.
It's hard work. Don't say that. I was actually going to
say. I mean, married life is hard. Is hard work, and it's not. You've just got to keep at it and find the correct balance to get it right. And not just give up at the first hiccup. So, yeah, that's what we do.
Let's start off by just debunking the biggest myth that people believe when it comes to long-lasting marriages. What are some of the things that you've encountered couples saying to you that is completely false? However, they think that that's the road to a long-lasting marriage.
I think it stems from fairy tales, you know, where you get married and you live happily ever after. That's the first myth. You don't live happily ever after.
But so, there you are. You're living happily ever after, no?
We are most of the time, but
there's still the occasional sort of hiccups, but we know how to work through those to get back to the happily ever after.
Yes.
So that is the thing. You know, we've learned that marriage is like a cycle. So you go through like 4 different stages within marriage. I mean, you'd start off in the romance stage where you are just going to have just eyes for your spouse. But then after a few years, maybe, that romance phase ends. You can't stay there always in that googly romance stage, otherwise you'll get nothing done. And then comes possibly the disillusionment when you are sick and tired of picking up the washing, or sick and tired of sitting watching him play sport, or things that you would have done when you first got married and you were just thought this was just too wonderful. And then if it carries on like that, you could go right into misery. And then that's when you might really seek help. And then you can, if you carry on working at it, or else if you give up after the romance stage, you think, well, I don't love her anymore, or I don't love him anymore, so I'm just going to give up. But in actual fact, if you move on, you can get back to that, well, the joy stage then of a far more mature love and relationship with your spouse. So that is the process.
Myra, I'm gonna stick with you for a second. You went to
Okay.
the misery stage. I mean, I was with you and we were tugging along and we're fighting through it until you said misery. What gets coupled to that place?
Well, maybe when they hit a serious hiccup in the marriage, where it could be an abusive situation, it could be abuse of alcohol, it could be drug abuse, it could be even just like a not even such a major thing. Well, affairs, but it could be also giving one being an absolute workaholic, and they spend all their time at work and not thinking about their family at home. All those things, sometimes big, sometimes small, lead to that misery stage where you just think, well, I'm just going to give up the towel.
Can't see any hope.
Yeah.
Don't know what to do.
The only thing is that if it's a drug or alcohol problem, then we would recommend you go on a specialized program. We can't deal with that. You know, we are not, we're not professionals. We just
Yeah.
work in a peer ministry where we are couples that have been through difficult times and we speak from our story. And that's what helps the couples then to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, there is hope at the end. We can keep working at our marriage. We can get to that joy stage as we see the couples around about us. I hope that helps you.
That does, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mayor. Peter, I'm going to turn to you for just for a second, right? And I love what Mayor said, which is you use your specific experiences within the frame of your marriage to assist other marriages. When you think of the process of maturing or transitioning from phase to phase, what are some of the fundamental principles that one needs to bear in mind? Because yes, the season will change, but there is an anchor in your character that needs to remain. What are some of those anchors?
I think it's a personal inside of you. You know, you need to bear in mind a couple of things. Firstly, that yes, you had this romantic stage and everything was lovey-dovey, and then you know it's a transition from being a single person. Now you've got to consider your spouse when you get married, and then things start to change because you might be leading different lives, working in different fields, and then yeah, it can be a slow process. One of them is what we call the married singles lifestyle, where, as Moya mentioned earlier, one is a workaholic, or one is a great sports person and is only concentrating on that, and then it slowly builds up. But the point is, you've got to realize one thing very important is that if nothing changes where you are in your situation, then nothing changes. But you have to change yourself. You can't change your spouse. That's what a lot of our couples, when they come to the program and they say, oh, I wish I could change him, or I wish I could change her behavior, etc. No, you can't change your spouse. So that is the one realization that you need to come to if you want to reach a long-lasting relationship and the joy stage and be able to go through the ups and downs. You have to make changes. But that's sometimes difficult, especially if you've there's a bit of a thought that people who get married later on in life have sort of already set up their lifestyle in the early 20s, maybe even 30s. Their career's on the go, and now they meet somebody else, and something has to change. And it's difficult at that stage. Our experience, I think we were fortunate that we actually got married very young. Moya was 20 and I was 23. So, we didn't have a lot of single lifestyle before that. So, we grew up in a family, and just as we were leaving our families, we started our own family. And that's the kind of scenario that we continued to live in. But with that, then of course things start changing. You start having children, you might move, you might change jobs, there might be a death in the family. Those sort of things affect the balance. And that's what that's what we got to get past. And as I say, you need to change yourself.
Can I just come and say something?
Absolutely.
I'll expand when we got to that misery stage. I mean, things were going well, and we were happy. And then Peter got retrenched from his work, and could not find work for 5 years. And I was then the one bringing in the money, and on a teacher's salary that's not the greatest, and then also looking after the children and having to deal with their problems, because Peter went into almost like a sulk mode, and he cut himself off completely from the family. And so I felt as if I was all alone. I was the one who was really suffering, but I had to keep a stiff upper lip, so to speak, because I had to look after the children. And I mean, we had 6 children, so I had to be strong. And then our older three daughters had heard about Retrouvaille, and they booked us in, and they paid for it even, and the one even drove Peter and I there. So there was no way that we could sneak off and go home. We were there put, and I must say, on that weekend, I thought that I was the one who was really suffering on this, and that Peter didn't care about anything. Until on that program, I realized that, hang on a minute, he is suffering, and I am also a culprit in that. I also have to change. I have to change certain aspects about myself, as well as Peter realized, hang on a minute, Moya's also suffering. I've got to change as well. So that was, I think, the moment for us was then. And we realized we had to work hard to move out of this phase, to work towards being a happy couple, married couple, and have a happy family.
The voices there of Peter and Maire van der Linde, who is joining us this evening from Retrouvaille Life Line for married couples. And theirs is to share their story so that they can bring some level of understanding when it comes to the life of marriage and how to sustain yourselves throughout marriage. 44 after 10 p.m. Central Africa time. A short breather. When we get back, we continue to speak to the couple. It is 15 minutes before 11 p.m. Central Africa time. Peter and Maire van der Linde joining us this evening from Retrouvaille Life Line for married couples. And they're sharing their experience, their 53-year-long plus experience in marriage. And what I love is the honesty, the vulnerability, the truth of it all is that it won't be peaches and cream all day, every day. You will go through various cycles. And I love how the couple continues to emphasize that you need to work on you. You need to realize that you need to transform as well as part of this marriage. Let's come back to the conversation. I want to turn to you, Maire, and just talk about communication. You were just sharing with me how you got to a point where you realized that Peter withdrawing from the family, and you felt like he didn't care much about anything. And there's this point where you realize that I'm not the only one hurting. He's hurting too. How do you begin conversations when you realize the issue, when you see the problem for what it truly is?
Well, on the program, we actually learned how to approach conflict, well, and communication, I must say, because we learned on the weekend that communication is not just talking, because just talking, people can then they just hear your words going over and over again. So we also had to learn how to listen, and to listen, what we call active listening. So when you need to actually talk with your spouse or your partner, you need to listen and watch, have their attention, to watch facial expression, to watch and listen for the inclination in their voice. So there was a lot of things about listening, and then communication. We were taught communication skill in the fact where we get in contact with our feelings, because feelings are things that we are really taught to suppress. Like big boys or men, or like if you're a cowboy, don't cry. Or and on the weekend or throughout the program, we got to know that that's not the case. It is okay for men to show their feelings. And that's one thing where they have a big problem in, is identifying actually what they are feeling. Now, when you then, we also did quite a lot of writing letters, because on the program, we don't discuss things in a group at all. It's only between you and your spouse. So we would be given a topic to write on, or we listen to what the couples have got to say, and then we are given a topic to write on. And then we give an answer to that, and then we go further as to what are my strongest feelings, or how do I feel about what I have written to you. And then from the actual, and then you exchange your letters. And from that, I got to understand exactly how Peter felt in different situations. And I really got to know, I really got to know him, even though before we went on Retrouvaille, we had been married for quite a few years. And I really thought that I knew him. But in actual fact, it was on the program that I began to see and understand Peter's innermost thoughts and feelings that I had never, ever been aware of. And the same thing with me. He got to see, if you want to say, the real me, just by that sort of communication. So that is what really helped.
Peter, and to you, for those who are listening to this conversation, I want you to have a think on this. For those who are listening to this conversation and are saying, I find myself at a crossroads, or I find myself where introspection is a bit difficult. How do I approach the conversation with myself first before opening up to my significant other? I'm going to give you a moment to think on that. Let's take a quick breather. 8 minutes before 11 p.m. Central Africa time. We are still in conversation with Peter and Maire van der Linde joining us, a part of Retrouvaille Life Line for married couples. And Peter, I left you there with a question. The conversation you need to have with yourself before opening up to your partner. Those moments before you set Maire down rather, and you said, "This is how I feel." What did you say to yourself to open up and to realize that this is a safe space for me to share what I'm feeling?
Shayla, that's actually what we teach and teach the couples on the program, because when couples reach that stage, the sort of main feeling is, oh, I'm alone. What can I do? Okay, but you are not alone. There is an organization like Retrouvaille that can provide help. So that is the key thing, that there is help available. And it's no good listening to other couples who've been in the same boat and maybe have split up, etc. You need to first learn, which we teach, about yourself. As Moya spoke earlier about feelings, we are an emotional race. Humans are emotional. And there's nothing wrong with your emotions. Emotions are neither right nor wrong. You can feel angry. That's fine. You're allowed to. But it's how you behave with that feeling of anger. If you start shouting and screaming and swearing and bashing and that sort of thing, no, that's not allowed. So we teach in the writing process that we're about. We teach how to write, how to approach your spouse, how to read their reflections and what they've written respectfully, and that will stop the discussion to burst into an argument. So that is one of the key points. Yes, communication. Everybody says you need to communicate, but not many people tell you how to communicate, and that's what we do. We show them how to communicate, and that certainly helps. And also by writing things down, then you don't. If you're just talking out of your head, and then suddenly you say things that you didn't mean to say. But if you write something down, you think about it before you write it, and when your partner reads it, then they can hopefully understand how you are feeling, and how to respond proactively with you. So that's very important, that people must know or must try and understand that they're not alone. They're not the only ones in that spot. There are many people like that, and there are many people who've come through that, and we can help them.
Absolutely. And for the couples who are listening right now and they're saying, I want help, where do they find you?
An international website called Help Our Marriage. It's all one word, lowercase, www.helpourmarriage.org. So I say that is international in all the countries that Retrouvaille is represented, and it shows the local communities and contact details, and then they can request more information. They can. We have a dedicated number that we honor. If anybody phones in the Durban area, there are other communities in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Port Elizabeth. So that's what we try to get out there on our advertising, and it does reach success sometimes, but we are a small unit, and we try our best.
The contact numbers will also appear on the website for the different areas, and also when the next program would be starting, and then. But also they could, if they phone that number for Durban, they will get us personally. So, and if they're wanting help in the Durban area, and Durban, Pietermaritzburg area, then we can always make arrangements to see them, to meet with them, and then give them some guidelines before the program starts, so that they get that help.
Peter, Maire, this has been an absolute pleasure. We cannot wait to see the lives you change. And thank you so much for your dedication, for helping others go through difficult times in their marriage, or maybe even just helping them think correctly in the context of marriage. We thank you and we commend you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate
Thank you very, very much.
It actually helps us as well in our marriage. When we come across couples like that, and we try to explain and teach them these things. Yeah. And then it certainly makes us think again, especially if a hiccup has arisen and, we're in a bit of a bad way. Yeah. Then we realize, no, we can do this.
Wow. Again, thank you
and
both.
We've got a team to support us.
Oh, lovely. We love that. Yeah. We love that you have a community to uplift you.
Yes.
Maire, just with you, a quick one. For those who are listening right now and they're thinking to themselves, Shayla, I've seen the dating pool. It is extremely difficult. This is even before marriage. Just as a one-liner, what would you say to them to help them gear up their minds for the prospects of marriage?
I would suggest, well, firstly, to think carefully, to make sure that you have got similar interests and values, because then you should be on the right page for that. To also, really know the spouse, because sometimes what they portray in the romance stage is after a few years that can change, and then you can actually see that, hang on a minute, there's alcohol abuse or whatever. You can also see by meeting the family and spending time within his or her family, so that you could see what sort of family background he comes from, or she comes from, because the family of origin can make a big impact on the marriage. So I would suggest those areas to look for.
Oh, that was beautiful. I think that's a beautiful way to end this conversation. I do hope to be speaking to the both of you very soon.
Anytime. We're available.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Shayla, and best of luck and carry on with what you are doing.
Thank you very much for having us.
The voices there of a couple that inspires very many to push through the tough times, to enjoy the beautiful moments, but also to appreciate the union that is marriage. It is top of the new hour. Let's get into it.